In today's masterclass, we will learn about bundle branch block. Let's start with the basic definition. A bundle branch block refers to a delay or block in the electrical conduction through either the left or right bundle branches of the His-Purkinje system. This interruption alters how electrical impulses travel through the heart, affecting the pattern of ventricular contraction. Now, bundle branch blocks are broadly classified into two types. This classification depends on whether the left or right branch is involved. First, we have the left bundle branch block, abbreviated as LBBB. In this type, the electrical signal cannot travel down the left bundle branch, so it's rerouted through the right ventricle first, causing the left ventricle to activate later and in an abnormal pattern. Next, we have the right bundle branch block, or RBBB. Here, the conduction delay is on the right side, so the right ventricle receives the impulse after the left. This again disrupts normal ventricular coordination, but in a different pattern. This ECG strip shows characteristic changes seen in bundle branch blocks. Notice the widened QRS complexes, greater than 120 milliseconds, indicating delayed ventricular depolarization. In LBBB, we often see broad, notched R waves in lateral leads like lead 1, V5, and V6. In contrast, RBBB typically shows an RS-R'(I) pattern, rabbit ears, in V1 and a wide S wave in lead 1 and V6. This is very important and a classic MCQ favorite. Before diagnosing a bundle branch block, we first need to confirm that the baseline ECG is normal. This step helps us avoid misinterpretation due to pre-existing abnormalities. Let's begin with the heart rate calculation. Take 300 and divide it by the number of large squares between two RR intervals. This gives us an accurate heart rate based on regular rhythm. Next, assess the axis of the ECG. Look at leads I and AVF. If the R wave is taller than the S wave in both leads, then the axis is normal. A normal axis rules out axis deviation, which can mimic or mask other findings. Now check the P wave. It should be less than 120 milliseconds in duration, and the height should not exceed 2.5 millimeters in lead 2. This helps us rule out atrial enlargement, which can skew interpretation. The ST segment comes next. Look closely for any elevation, depression, or abnormal coving. These changes may indicate ischemia or infarction, conditions that must be excluded before confirming a bundle branch block. Then assess the T wave height. In limb leads, it should be under 5 mm, and in chest leads, under 10 mm. Abnormal T waves can reflect repolarization issues and are common distractors in exam questions. Let's also evaluate the QT interval. This interval should be measured and compared against normal for the patient's age and heart rate. Also, keep an eye out for the presence of a Q wave in leads V5 and V6. This could indicate previous infarction. Finally, check R wave progression. Normally, in leads V1 to V3, the R wave is smaller than the S wave. But by V4 to V6, the R wave becomes taller than the S. Loss of this progression can suggest anterior infarction or lead misplacement. Let's begin with the pathophysiology of left bundle branch block, or LBBB. In this condition, there's a conduction block in the left bundle, so the left ventricle doesn't get activated through the normal His-Purkinje system. Because the left bundle is blocked, the electrical impulse travels down the right bundle branch first. This causes the right ventricle to depolarize before the left, reversing the normal sequence of activation. Next, we see that septal activation reverses direction from left to right instead of right to left. This reversal is a key feature and directly alters the QRS complex morphology on the ECG. Due to this abnormal conduction, ventricular activation becomes sequential rather than simultaneous. This prolongs the QRS duration and distorts the normal pattern of depolarization, especially in leads that reflect left-sided activity. Now let's turn to the causes of LBBB. You can remember them using the mnemonic A2D2H2, that's 2 A's, 2 D's, and 2 H's. The first A is aortic stenosis, a common cause in elderly patients due to left ventricular pressure overload. The second A stands for anterior wall MI, where infarction damages the left bundle pathway. Next, digoxin toxicity is another trigger, especially when it leads to ventricular bigeminy, a pattern of alternating normal and premature beats. Then comes dilated cardiomyopathy, where the stretched and weakened heart muscle impairs normal conduction pathways. Hypertension is also a major contributor. Chronic high pressure thickens the left ventricular wall, increasing the risk of conduction defects. Finally, hyperkalemia, elevated potassium, can slow down conduction and precipitate bundle branch blocks. This is an exam favorite, especially in emergency scenarios. First, we see that the Q wave is absent in leads V5 and V6. In normal conduction, we'd expect a small Q wave in those lateral leads from initial septal depolarization. But in left bundle branch block, the left septal activation is delayed and reversed, so that Q wave disappears. The next feature, tall R wave in V5 and V6. Because the left ventricle is activated late and by slow muscle-to-muscle conduction, the lateral leads show a broad, tall R wave instead of the usual, narrower complex. This is a very important exam point. Another key aspect, deep S wave in V1 and V2. In a left bundle block, the initial right ventricular forces dominate in the early part of the complex, causing a large S in the right precordial leads, a hallmark of LBBB. Then we note the rabbit ear pattern, RR, in leads V5, V6. This double-peaked R wave or notched R wave in lateral leads is characteristic of the delayed bifid activation of the left ventricle. Think of two waves, hence the rabbit ear analogy. Classic MCQ favorite. The next animation highlights broad QRS complex, duration greater than 120 milliseconds. Because conduction through the left bundle is blocked, activation of the left ventricle is sluggish, so the QRS widens beyond the usual threshold. Very important. Another feature is left axis deviation. Lead 1 positive, AVF negative. In many cases of LBBB, the overall mean electrical vector shifts leftwards due to altered sequence of depolarization. This can be a subtle clue. Then we have failure of normal R wave progression in the precordial leads. Normally, the R wave gradually increases from V1 to V4 to V5. But in LBBB, this progression is disrupted. So you might see persistently small R in V1 to V3 or a delayed large R only later. Lastly, there are non-discordant STT changes, ST segment opposite to QRS direction. In LBBB, you'll often see ST depression in V5 to V6 when there is a tall R, or ST elevation in V1 to V2 when there is a deep S. These are secondary repolarization changes and can be tricky in exams, so be alert. Let's begin with a major consequence of LBBB. It can lead to pulmonary edema. This happens due to ineffective ventricular contraction, especially when the left ventricle is out of sync. Blood backs up into the lungs, causing breathlessness and crepitations on auscultation. Now moving to the next point. New onset LBBB is clinically significant because it may indicate an anterior wall myocardial infarction. This is especially critical in emergency settings where chest pain plus new LBBB raises concern for ongoing infarction. A key tool here is the Sgarbossa Criteria. These criteria help diagnose acute MI in the presence of LBBB, which otherwise masks typical ST segment changes. It's a lifesaver in patients presenting with atypical ECGs. And finally, LBBB is considered lethal if missed in MI. If a myocardial infarction is present but misdiagnosed due to the conduction block, treatment gets delayed and outcomes worsen dramatically. Always think of MI first when LBBB is new and the patient is symptomatic. Let's dive into the pathophysiology of RBBB. In this condition, the electrical conduction to the right ventricle is delayed. The impulse travels normally through the left bundle, but the right side lags behind. Importantly, the left ventricle still depolarizes normally. This means that initial ventricular activation proceeds through the usual route, but the right ventricular activation is prolonged, causing a widened QRS with specific changes on the ECG. Now let's turn to the causes of RBBB. These are mostly conditions that strain or structurally alter the right side of the heart. First is pulmonary embolism, where sudden right heart strain can disrupt conduction. This is especially high yield in acute chest pain cases. Next is cor pulmonale, a chronic condition where lung disease leads to right heart enlargement and eventually electrical disruption. We also see RBBB in right ventricular hypertrophy, where thickened muscle delays conduction. This is common in chronic pulmonary conditions like COPD. Ischemic heart disease, or IHD, can damage conduction pathways on either side. In RBBB, infarction affecting the right bundle branch is the key culprit. Another cause is rheumatic heart disease, or RHD. Long-term valve damage can lead to chamber dilation and conduction issues, particularly in developing countries. And finally, cardiomyopathies, especially dilated forms, can stretch and scar conduction fibers, leading to RBBB patterns on the ECG. Let's begin with the hallmark feature of right bundle branch block, the RSR pattern in leads V1 and V2. This is often called the M pattern or rabbit ears. It represents the delayed right ventricular depolarization, showing up as a second R wave or R prime in the right precordial leads. Classic MCQ favorite. Next is the wide slurred S wave or W pattern in leads V5 and V6. These lateral leads pick up the delayed activation of the right ventricle pulling away from the left, which shows as a widened terminal S wave. Another feature is the dominant S wave in V5 and V6. Instead of a tall R, these leads show a deep S because left to right forces are exaggerated due to the delayed right ventricular conduction. Now, observe the broad QRS complex, greater than 120 milliseconds. This is essential for diagnosing complete RBBB. The delay in right bundle conduction stretches the QRS duration well beyond the normal range. Let's look at the attached ECG image. You can clearly see the RSR pattern in V1, those rabbit ears, and the broad S waves in lateral leads. This is a textbook example of right bundle branch block. It's a favorite in ECG spotters and Viva exams. Moving into clinical relevance, there's no pooling of blood in the lungs, unlike LBBB. That's because left ventricular contraction remains normal, so forward flow into the systemic circulation and lungs is usually preserved. Finally, RBBB is generally considered less dangerous than LBBB. Since the left ventricle continues to contract effectively, patients are less likely to develop pulmonary edema or hemodynamic compromise. Let's wrap up with a summary of bundle branch blocks. In both left and right bundle branch block, the QRS duration is prolonged, exceeding 120 milliseconds. This is a universal criterion for diagnosing a complete block. Starting with LBBB, the first key feature is a dominant S wave in V1 and V2 due to reversed septal activation away from the right chest leads. In contrast, RBBB shows an RSR prime pattern in V1 and V2. That's the classic M-shaped complex caused by delayed right ventricular depolarization. In LBBB, you'll see a tall R wave in V5 and V6, reflecting the delayed but exaggerated left ventricular depolarization. But in RBBB, lead V6 shows a dominant S wave, again due to the delayed right ventricular forces pulling the vector away from lateral leads. Another LBBB hallmark is the rabbit ear R wave in V5-V6 or R prime, signaling delayed left-sided activation. Meanwhile, in LBBB, you'll also note the absence of a Q wave in V5 and V6 because the septum no longer depolarizes from left to right. One important clinical point: LBBB is more dangerous. It's often associated with structural heart disease and can mask or mimic myocardial infarction. On the other hand, RBBB can be physiological, especially in younger patients without underlying disease. It's usually less concerning unless new or symptomatic.